and I'm running also for Congressional District 15. Oh, my time is up already? Okay. It's good to see a lot of you. I recognize a lot of faces in here. It's great to see you all again. Those of you who are new to this meeting, thank you for coming as well. I especially wanted to, well, let me give my introduction first. I'm a 21-year retired active duty Army veteran, and that's a big part of why I wanted to get in this race, why I felt necessary. I felt the responsibility to do this. Once I was as a young soldier, when I reached about the point of 4 years, and at this point I was still just happy to have served a few times, or for a few enlistments. And one of our leaders told us that a lot of soldiers typically complain about the issues, but they don't hang around long enough to do anything about them. And you know, he gave a much longer speech, of course, because they like to lecture us. We know that if you've been in the military, you understand how that works. But we, at that point, that really stuck with me. And that led from me to going from 4 years to 21. Because I always felt that there was a need and responsibility to continue to be part of the solution, as he put it. And that's something I hadn't heard of before that point, but it also came back to mind after the presidential election, November 5th, 2024. That was the date, right? I think we can all kind of remember that now. Or where were you at that time, right? But I want to make sure I thank everyone for being here, because let me ask you all this. How many of you are tired of getting those texts and emails from Democratic candidates throughout the entire country asking for money? Right? So I know it's tough, of course. I got one, so it was a slow day for me, but with, yeah, and all of them are asking for something. The world's going to end, the universe is going to explode if you don't give, $5, whatever. Yes, sir.
How do they get our information?
That is a good question. There are, our information is kind of all over the place, as far as what I understand. And they're on call lists. They go from one, agency, whatever, to the other, and so forth. And a lot of it comes from also not the supervisor of elections, but our voter information. So that's where a lot of that ends up happening. Now, who knows where else? As far as I know, that's where a lot of it can come from, but that's where it is. And I wanted to make sure I'm thanking you all for being here, because I know that gets tough. You all are here because you want to be involved. You want to contribute. You want to be part of the solution. You want to be part of what fixes a lot of what we're seeing now. We're all tired of it. It's maddening. Every time a news report comes in, it's what the hell is going on now. And one problem I get a lot as I'm going through and talking to folks is a gross lack of representation and connection with your representatives. And the thing, especially what Ms. Jenkins mentioned earlier too, is sickening from people like Randy Fine. And they've become comfortable enough to do that and to say those things and behave in those ways. And I wanted to make sure I kept in mind what I learned in my time in the Army, to be a fighter, to not reach across the aisle, to not get along just to get along, because that's not helping us get anywhere. And when I see all of you here, this is incredibly encouraging to, know how we're going to go forward with this. Define in one word, politician. That's one answer there. Go ahead. Entertainment. You said entertainment? Yeah, there we go. Okay.
Self-centered.
Self-centered, opportunist.
Narcissistic.
Narcissistic. This is Sisyphus. I don't even know what that means, but yeah. So this is where we are today. And you all have been around long enough. This is not something that just started, recently. We've normalized this kind of behavior from who are we supposed to be? Elected officials, representatives of you all in here, right? But these are the words that describe the people who you elect, who you give money to, who you go to the polls for, who you vote for, and these are the results you get from them, and that's unacceptable. I want to be different than that. That's why a lot of you have seen me more than once. And I want you to get to a point where you're tired of seeing me, because that's the whole idea. If I'm supposed to be representing you, then everything that I should reflect what this room looks like, not what Washington looks like. As part of my platform, and this won't be much longer because I want to hear more from you all. First of all, we need to impeach, convict, and remove this administration. We see everything happening, right? There's basically no rules. Law and order makes no difference whatsoever. And on top of it, before we forget to, abolishing ICE, that's another thing. We gotta get rid of that. And along with what we're seeing with Renee Nicole Good and Alex Preddy, a gentleman by the name of Keith Porter was killed also earlier in the year. So I want to make sure we remember him as well. But abolish, not reform, not defund, but get rid of them altogether. And I also want to go after those who are committing these acts, those individuals we see, those who murdered Alex, those who murdered Keith, those who murdered Renee Nicole Good, go after them by name, make examples out of them. Because the whole idea of history, making sure history doesn't repeat itself, is to make examples out of people like that, so that we don't have to go back to it again. And going back to history repeating itself, I know it can be discouraging sometimes to see that we're going down a path, especially those of you, and I've talked to quite a few folks who have been around 60s, 70s, and you're seeing us go down a similar path, from back then. Remember that if history can repeat itself that way, then we can repeat history and come out of it as well. So, along with abolishing ICE, I said I won't get along just to get along, because we're seeing a lot of that. There's issues on our side as well, up in Congress. There's things that we as Democrats can do much better. That's what I want to work on as well. I'm not looking to just side with everything Democrats are doing, because there's a lot of folks are unhappy with some of what we're seeing there. And I want to be part of changing that. But again, it's about representation and what you all need. And that's what I go to Washington for. We talk about affordability, right? You hear that a lot. That seems to be a buzzword, it feels like. And I want to do more. I want to go further than just speak to that. What it means from one person to the next. What does affordability mean to any of you in here?
Buying groceries, we've got it costing 50% more than 6 months ago.
There you go. Buying groceries without it costing 50% more than it did 6 months ago. Things like that. But it means something different to someone else, right? So the idea is, and let's not forget marginalized communities too, because in a lot of the times you hear us speaking, we forget to keep marginalized communities in mind. And we often like to look at those doing the best and saying that's the representation, that's what the economy looks like, and that's not where it is. It's where those who are struggling the most, those are the people to make sure we're looking after also. So homeowners insurance, that's come up almost every event that I've gone to. People have spoken about, you all in here also have spoken about homeowners insurance. When I'm on the phone speaking to residents as well, folks have left. They would say things like, well, good luck, but I don't live there anymore because the homeowners insurance was too much. And that definitely should not be what causes or leads any of you to want to leave a place you want to, or you love to live or want to remain. So is that Social Security. We've stopped talking about that, but that issue has not been fixed. I know we were talking about it early last year a lot, but that's going to come back up again later on. I want to make sure that stays on the table and we don't forget about that. And Social Security is not a senior citizen issue. I want to make sure we're clear about that too, because we are all affected by that. But when you hear the conversation come up, when you hear it spoken, immediately that's what we think about. Oh, it's for senior citizens and so forth. And it's important for you all, obviously, but this is something we're all paying into it, and even if it doesn't affect you today, it will at some point down the road. Medicare for all. You should not have to decide between life and death because the government's the one screwing everything up for you. So, those are just a few of my platforms. My website is easy to remember, peopleforcongress.com. And before I get to questions, of course, as I said earlier, you probably feel beaten to death by this point with candidates asking you for money. What I want to ask of you is to earn your vote, because that's what gets us across the finish line. If you can afford, if you feel it in you to want to give something, then I would most definitely appreciate that, but that's not what I'm going to come at you for. And some may say, well, that's not what you should do. Well, you know what? This right here is what makes the difference, not how much money I can get. So I would like to hear any questions you may have either today. If you're not comfortable asking today, please get with me after this or at any other time at your convenience. Please let me know. And whatever answers I cannot give you, I'll make sure I will get back to you on those. But what questions? What are your questions at this point? Yes, sir.
What is your position on the elimination of property taxes?
What is my position on the elimination of property tax? I would like to be more educated on that. The little bit that I know so far, and I would like to get a better answer to you as well. We do need and I don't own property here. I don't own property, so I haven't looked into that, but I want to get with that. So let me see your name, sir.
Tim.
Okay. Let's speak after this because I want to get an answer to you. I've moved here. I've lived here about 6 years after retiring from the Army. So again, I'd like to talk more about that with you. My understanding at this point is we obviously still need them for there's a lot of reasons we still need property tax as well. I want to be able to give you something more specific than just a generic answer though. So that's why I want to be more clear with you on. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Question. If you end up going to Congress, what sort of offensive things will you do to try to change the tide on what's happening right now?
Well, it starts with impeaching, convicting, and removing. We got to start there. We have to do that. Now, of course, that's just one part of it. That won't be the only thing we're doing, obviously. But we see a gross lack of accountability up there, right? And that's what we need to, continue to stay on. Now, we hear a lot of, at this point, well, Republicans outnumber the Democrats. And a lot is not happening because we see that. In the event that we're there, I don't see that, but in the event that we're there, after the midterms, and I know this is a struggle to have to wait for that. No one wants to hear we'll be fine by then because the midterms is not until November and we're not in office until January. So ultimately there's an entire year and we can't, in a lot of cases we can't afford to wait for that long. But I want to go after the areas that we neglected so much of, such as, number one, accountability, holding these representatives, the ones who are not doing what they should be doing, more to the fire. I would like to really create an agency, some type of entity that is independent of, or is nonpartisan. Because a lot of what we're saying, obviously, is we don't have to, for example, of course, anything we see the president doing now, the Republicans basically just get him out of it, right? And it shouldn't be he does whatever, then the same ones who voted for him can vote to decide whether he should be held responsible for it. That doesn't make any sense. Nowhere else does that work. So it will, I feel like it needs to, there's a lot that we need to fix. And to answer your question, ma'am, it's going to take really doing something different than what we've seen. Meaning we need to really go after, it's a lot, but we're gonna make sure we take care of that. Did that answer your question, ma'am?
You know, it's all right. Yeah, it's just, there's so much to be done, it's painful. The flood in the zone nonsense, where they're going after absolutely everything. I just feel like we gotta pick a couple of things to really focus on. Otherwise, it all gets diluted because we can't focus on everything. So
Yeah.
I'm just kind of wondering what's your priorities.
Well, priority-wise, impeaching, convicting, removing, because we have to get anything that we do outside of that is going to basically be undone when we see ICE doing what they're doing. When they continue doing that, it's going to be undone from that. When Trump does what he does, that's going to be we have to get them out of there. Let's say we're able to do that, we're able to accomplish that. Then that's when I come back. That's when we do our town halls and so forth. That's when we find out, okay, now that they're out of the picture, what should be our next focus? What does the district need from your representative in Washington? So that's where we go, and at that point, that's when we decide what the priorities will be, as far as where we are at that stage. Yes.
So what committees, if you had a choice to choose which committees you get to be on, what would be your choice? What's your interest and expertise?
I wrote them down too, but I haven't done another book. But I know I wanted to work with, I may not be saying these names exactly correct, but I know the Veterans Administration, I want to work with that, the education, armed services, yes, I'm sorry, thank you. And I have it written down somewhere, because I think someone's going to ask that. I'll make sure I get that list to you, but what is it? I think government accountability is another one. I think that's what it's called. But oversight. That and I think there were about 4 or 5 of them that I wanted to be part of, because that's where I see, as I'm speaking to people, that's where I see the most help needed, the most issues, the most things people have had. So. Any other questions? Any comments?
Thank you for running. It's tough, but again, I feel like this is a responsibility to do this. And no, I'm not the most polished speaker and so forth. I'm an introvert, really, but it may not seem like it, but I am. But I always want to be transparent and authentic, because again, I'm a representation of you all in here. And I don't need to try to get so far away from you that I become unrecognizable, which is what we're seeing a lot of. So that's what you're always going to get from me. Like, I don't have a problem saying I don't know something. We're afraid, we don't get that from politicians very often. But would you rather I tell you now I don't have the answer, or would you rather wait until I'm in Washington waiting for me to vote on something, and then you find out, oh, he didn't know what the hell he was talking about? So this is more of what's needed, more authenticity and so forth. So I won't be perfect, but I'll definitely be straight up with it. Thank you very much. Robert People, peopleforcongress.com. Thank you.